I'm scared, it's my first night, the bride whispered, her hands trembling slightly as she stood at the wooden doorway of the quiet ranch house, the moon casting a silver glow on the dusty ground beneath her feet, and the cowboy, tall, broad-shouldered, the brim of his hat shadowing gentle eyes, paused before he stepped inside, turning back to look at her with a slow, reassuring smile that melted a little of the fear tightening her chest. This wasn't the life she had imagined growing up, stitching hopes into dreams while staring at the endless prairie skies, but now she was here, married to a man she'd known barely long enough to memorize the sound of his bootsteps, and the silence of the plains felt louder than any city noise she'd left behind, the wind howling like a warning yet carrying with it the smell of new beginnings, and as her fingers nervously brushed the delicate lace of her simple wedding dress, she wondered if she had made the right choice when she said, "I do." Earlier that morning, the sun shining warmly on the tiny church, her heart pounding so fiercely she thought everyone could hear it, but the cowboy, whose name was Ethan Hayes, had taken her hand with such gentle certainty that she felt safe enough to trust him, even if trust felt like walking through darkness without a lamp. And now as the heavy door creaked behind them, she stepped inside, the soft glow of lantern light illuminating the cozy interior where the scent of fresh wood and warm bread danced together, making her stomach flutter. Not from hunger but from the strange mix of nerves and anticipation knotted tight within her. Ethan set his belt carefully on a wooden chair, removing his gun holster as if shedding the dangers of daylight, and he spoke in a voice soft as the glow of firelight, telling her she didn't need to fear anything here because she was home now, and he would never rush her or demand more than she was ready to give, but still her breath shivered because everything was new, the house, the man, the marriage. And she wasn't sure how to speak the thousand thoughts storming inside her, how to explain that she feared not him but the unknown, and when he noticed her trembling hands, he took a small step back as if to give her space, respect radiating from him more loudly than words, his eyes soft with promise. She sank slowly onto the couch, the fabric scratchy yet comforting under her fingertips, and he knelt down by the fireplace to light a few more logs, the crackling flames chasing away the chill that had clung to her ever since the sun dipped below the hills, and with each flicker of warmth she felt a little more alive, a little more certain that this man was not here to own her but to cherish her, the way she hoped love could feel, quiet and steady, not wild and dangerous. Ethan stood again, hesitating for a heartbeat before sitting a few feet away, enough distance to keep her comfortable yet close enough for her to feel his presence like a shield around her fear. And when she whispered once more, "I'm scared," he didn't laugh or shrug or pretend not to notice. He listened, really listened, his hat now resting over his heart as he answered that being scared wasn't weakness, it was proof she understood the value of the choice she'd made, a choice he would honor every day because he believed in patience, believed in building something firm enough that even storms couldn't shake it. And as the firelight painted his features in warm gold, she saw sincerity woven into every line of his face, a man shaped by both hardship and hope, who still looked at her like she was a blessing he hadn't expected but vowed to protect. And slowly, with careful fingers, she reached for the belt he had set aside, not to use it for anything frightening, but to hold it close as a symbol of how he'd placed his trust in her hands, unforced and unbroken. And as she clutched the soft worn leather, she whispered that she wanted to be brave for him too, that she wanted to learn this new life not in fear but in partnership. And he smiled, one of those rare smiles that warms from the inside out, and said they would take each step together, even if it meant moving slowly like the rising dawn, hand in hand through uncertainty. Outside, the coyotes howled somewhere far beyond their land, a reminder that the world could be wild and harsh, but within these walls there was nothing but gentleness, and she felt her heart settle, the fear loosening its grip as she realized she wasn't facing the unknown alone anymore, because Ethan Hayes was here, patient as the steady beat of a drum, willing to wait however long it took for her to feel safe enough to call this place home. And the night, once terrifying, now wrapped around them like a soft blanket of stars, whispering quietly of beginnings stronger than fear. And before she knew it, she found herself breathing easier, her voice steadier, a small but hopeful smile blooming on her lips as she whispered a thank you so quiet it nearly disappeared into the crackling fire. Yet Ethan heard it clearly, nodding with a heart full of promise as he told her this was only the start of a life that would grow sweeter every day, as long as they faced it together, side by side, soul by soul, trust by trust. The first rays of dawn crept through the curtains of the ranch house, painting soft streaks of gold across the wooden floor as the bride, now beginning to feel the name, wife, settled gently into her heart, stood quietly by the window, watching the world wake up beyond the wide plains, her fingers still curled slightly as if holding onto the memory of last night's warmth and the comfort she found in Ethan's understanding presence, and she breathed in the crisp morning air that carried the scent of horses, wild sage, and freshly baked bread, realizing for the first time that fear had not conquered her. It had simply guided her to a moment where courage could take its place. She turned to see Ethan already up, tying his belt with practiced ease, the same belt she had held closed the night before, and when he noticed her eyes following the motion, he smiled gently, saying he had morning chores to tend to but she could take all the time she needed adjusting to her new home, that she didn't have to prove anything or pretend she was ready to take on a life she was just learning to understand, and she felt her heart warm because every word he spoke built a bridge where her fear once stood, a path that invited her forward without pressure. She insisted, shyly but determined, that she wanted to help, to learn, to be a part of this home rather than a frightened stranger inside it, and he nodded approvingly, handing her a soft cotton shawl to wrap around herself before stepping outside into the early sun that painted everything with hope, and the ranch spread wide before her eyes, rolling fields, a sturdy barn, horses grazing peacefully, and the distant hills glowing under the sky that seemed bigger than anything she had ever dreamed under before. Ethan guided her gently through each part of his world, introducing her to the horses with quiet pride, letting her feed a gentle chestnut mare who nuzzled into her palm as if welcoming her as family, and her laughter, small at first, grew brighter as she felt her fear shrinking under every new moment of discovery, each second proving she was stronger than she thought. Later, as they worked side by side, Ethan told her stories about the land and the sky, about storms they'd survive and sunsets that made even the hardest days worth it, and she found comfort in the rhythm of his voice, in the certainty that he lived with purpose and heart, qualities she could learn from and lean on. When they returned inside for breakfast, he pulled out a wooden chair for her like a gentleman raised on respect, and as they ate, she opened up, hesitant but honest, about the doubts she carried, about the fear that she might not be enough, not brave enough, not skilled enough to belong in a rugged world like this. But Ethan reached across the table with a steady hand and told her that belonging wasn't earned by perfection, it was embraced through presence, that she already belonged because she chose to be here with him, and that every sunrise was another chance to grow into the life they were building together. Tears shimmered quietly in her eyes, not of sadness but relief, as she realized she didn't have to transform all at once, that courage was something that rose slowly like the dawn, and he squeezed her hand softly, promising that every day would be another chapter they'd write with patience and respect. The hours slipped by like a gentle stream as he taught her how to gather eggs, how to water the garden, how to listen to the land the way he did, and though she stumbled a few times, feet unsure on uneven ground, Ethan was always right there, catching her before she fell, his laughter warm like sunshine whenever she blushed with embarrassment, and she began to feel a growing pride in every small victory. Every moment she proved to herself that she could adapt and thrive. By afternoon, when they stood together overlooking the valley from the edge of their property, the wind tugging playfully at her shawl, she looked up at him and thanked him once more. Not just for patience, but for seeing her as someone worth waiting for. And he tipped his hat with a shy grin, confessing that he felt lucky too, because having someone to share dreams with made the future feel brighter than ever. As evening settled and the stars returned to glitter over the ranch, she found herself no longer trembling at the silence of the night, because now it felt like a blanket wrapped around them both, full of protection instead of uncertainty, and when they stepped back inside, the warmth of home seemed to rise up and greet her like a friend she had known all along. She paused near that same wooden chair from last night, her eyes landing on Ethan's belt resting there again, not as something to fear, but as a reminder of trust freely given. And she realized that what scared her yesterday had become a symbol of safety today, that her heart had already begun to reshape fear into strength, love into bravery, and as they ended the day sharing quiet smiles by the fire, the soft glow reflecting in their eyes like unspoken promises, she whispered a silent vow to herself that tomorrow she would give even more to this place, to this man, to the life they were weaving together with gentle hands and hopeful spirits, a life she now believed could be filled with laughter, adventure, and the kind of love that grows slowly yet unshakably with every sunrise. And if anyone watching their story felt even a spark of inspiration, if they believed in love that is kind, patient, and built on trust, she hoped they would stay for the next chapter of their journey, because stories like theirs are meant to be shared, cherished, and followed, just like how you, dear viewer, should subscribe now to continue witnessing this beautiful and heartfelt tale of courage, love, and new beginnings that only get better from here.